So, Richard, I think you're going to like this topic because we've been messaging about this and sharing like our criticisms about some things. But I will say there are some good things about this, and that is the Movement for a People's Party. They had a people's convention recently. I enjoyed hearing from a lot of the speakers there. We had Jesse Ventura, we had Nina Turner, Cornel West, Jimmy Dore. The list goes on and on. There were so many great speakers there. I didn't agree with everybody on their strategy for what to do with this election cycle, but it seems like their goal is to have a candidate for 2024. And I think we don't have enough time for that. We need to take action right now. And we're going to get into some of the criticism that I have, but first I want to hear from you guys. Did you guys watch the People's Convention? Did you guys think it was a success? I'll start with you, Richard. What do you think?
I mean, look, I've been talking with a couple of different folks, and we all seem to have the same opinion, which is that the People's Convention should have launched something. Instead, it kind of felt like a big cathartic powwow where we all complained about what was going on in politics. But there was no plan moving forward. They want to wait until 2024. I signed up for the mailing list for Brand New Congress and then got like zero updates in 2016. And I get a very strong Brand New Congress vibe from MPP in terms of what am I going to be able to expect from them in the future. The stuff around the general strike, I don't know if you want to cover that separately or if that's together with this, but it feels like there were tons of MPP accounts tweeting, yo, right around Labor Day, we're going to start this general strike. All the energy went towards that on Twitter for like a week and a half. There was no actual planning done to form a strike. I'm waiting. What general strike?
Yeah. Where is it? Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah.
What happened to the general strike? I was all up for it. Like there were people tweeting out like sometime around the beginning of September, and then it all died down. And I was like, oh man, I don't think it's gonna happen anymore. And now nobody's talking about it. So I don't think I've asked you, Charles, yet. Like I think I talked to Dak a little bit, like on DMs about MPP. But did you watch the People's Convention?
I got to see a few things here and there. With what I've had going on with work, I haven't had a lot of time to consume much in the video column. That's why I haven't really done too much on my own YouTube channel. But from what I gathered, it seems like we're trying to, instead of really involve people as a whole, we're focusing more on the left side of things. And that's not to say that, the left's bad, we got to have the right. No, but understand there are people who lean more to the right. I don't recall seeing very many people who spoke at that convention who leaned right in any way, shape, or form. They're either solid independent or they were lefties. Okay? So I don't know how your name fits if it's a people's party, but we're only going to focus on the left here. Okay, you're not including everyone in the conversation, which is something we need to have at this point. How else are you going to appeal to the southern blue-collar folks who are almost solid red, okay, when all you're bringing on are people who they've kind of been conditioned to not like, so they're not going to pay you any attention, okay? To me, that's very self-defeating if you're wanting to be taken seriously. Another problem is this concept of, we're going to have a candidate by 2024. And from what I'm gathering, they're referring to presidential candidate, which this has been my massive problem with the third-party options, is that we're putting all the focus on the very top of the pyramid here. You don't build a structure from the top down in almost any case. You build it from the bottom up. Right now, even if we got a president in the White House who wasn't a Democrat or Republican, as bad as the Democrats and the Republicans fight, you can bet your hard-earned dollar on one thing. They'll become best friends to make sure that president is a one-term president if they don't find a way to impeach him within 4 years. So if you get elected as the president, but you've got a Democrat or Republican-controlled House and Senate, your life's going to be miserable. You'll be gridlocked and you'll get nothing done. And then all the people who thought, well, maybe we should try this will say, well, nothing got done, so this was a failure. They will make sure you fail. You've got to replace congressional seats. You've got to replace people in the Senate. And so maybe we need to be focusing on some of these other races and start picking them off. because that's actually going to start to make a difference. Even if you get a Republican or Democrat president, but they don't have the votes in the House or the Senate to just railroad crap through for the wealthy elites, then they're going to be gridlocked, because they're not going to be getting their crooked bills passed through, because we're actually going to have some people in the Senate and then the House of Representatives who can stop such things. So if the People's Party really wants to be taken seriously, then they're going to have to really strengthen the game plan here a little bit, because right now all I'm seeing is a faction that's trying to break away from the Green Party, start another leftist party, and cause another split within the left. You're going to have to appeal to the country as a whole if you really want to be a people's party.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Al, you just made me think of a really good question I want to ask Richard. But first, I want to hear from Dak. I 100% agree, Charles. We need to start running candidates locally if we want any success. Now's the time. They should have been doing that. Like, they started off as a draft Bernie movement back in like 2017 or something. And it seemed, I did get the sense while watching that these are mainly just, former Bernie supporters that are running this thing. But we need to integrate more people. Like, we need to get as like conservatives also, who are also sick of the Republican Party, but they're so disgusted with the Democrats that they don't want to vote for them either.
Yeah.
So we definitely need to get rid of like the partisanship here for a minute. Let's just unite around getting money out of politics. And then after like we kick the Democrat and the Republicans' ass, then we can like start having like our own other parties once we develop like ranked choice voting and all that. So do you want to add anything else onto that, Dak?
Yeah, to what Charles was just talking about, where he said that they weren't making any effort to appeal to the right. The problem is that the term progressive has become a synonym on the Twitter sphere for pragmatic socialism, and so that leaves out people from all sorts of different realms within the political spectrum. We should probably at this point acknowledge our colleague Reed Coverdale at the Naturalist Capitalist, who has been trying to add a bit of another more libertarian dimension to this. Yeah. I like to think of libertarianism as the rational form of right-wing conservatism. Now, with the People's Convention, I agree completely that going for the presidential position is a complete waste of time and resources. I would encourage people to read Mike Gravel's book, The Failure of Representative Government and the Solution. He and I have done a couple of videos on my YouTube channel where we discuss this issue. He says that what we should do is we should attempt to bypass Congress completely by creating a People's Congress. You will hear constantly from people or from different polling centers that the majority of Democrats and Republicans agree on a number of key issues. For example, despite what you would think in the media, a majority of registered Republicans actually support Medicare for all or some equivalent program. These are the kinds of things that we could accomplish if we had a People's Congress and if we were to eliminate the representative aspect of it. That would obviously take quite a bit of time and resources and political energy as well, but I think that is a more worthwhile effort than trying to infiltrate the Congress, just because we saw what happened down in Kentucky, where the Democrats outspent what was that person's name? Charles Booker. He was outspent 40-fold. The Democrats put $40 million into the incumbent's campaign just to ensure that a progressive did not try to take down Mitch McConnell. I mean, it's embarrassing. That kind of stuff I've really become cynical about in the aftermath of 2020 with Tulsi Gabbard and Bernie Sanders and their falls from grace. So that's where I would move towards a truly People's Congress as opposed to a third party that attempts to elect a president. Yeah,
so I know that Richard here is, I think you know the most out of all of us with what happened with the Green Party. You're on Primo Nutbag, which I highly recommend people to check out that interview. It was really, really good. How can we make sure that the Movement for a People's Party does not commit the same mistakes as the Green Party?
I think the big one is it feels like, and maybe I'm speaking too broadly, but I get this vibe that there's a certain amount of hubris and ego that ends up taking over the leadership positions of these third-party movements, and then they don't end up cooperating with one another. And it's like right now, I think we're all kind of in agreement. with like even in the chat, they're concerned about MPP splitting the vote even more, which is I think a totally valid concern, given that most of their leadership seems to be former burners. They weren't endorsing a single candidate this cycle. Like the one in particular that's really gotten me and a couple of the other volunteers that I've spoken with too is it seems like everyone at the People's Party is deathly silent on Mark Charles's campaign.
Yeah.
When his slogan is literally like, let's make we the people mean all the people. What kind of People's Party are you when you're not addressing the like root constitutional issue that we have that allows for repeated structural exclusion of like black and brown Americans? And why not at least offer him a chance to speak at the convention? Like we fought hard to get Jesse the chance to speak there because they were so concerned that he might try to announce a campaign there. And we were able to finally coordinate that and allow him to be part of the platform. And I still see there was like a World Socialist Forum post that's like, shame on the People's Party for including a libertarian. So that's kind of the ethos that we're competing with on the far left right now. It's like, how are we supposed to unify when this is what we're dealing with? And then you have like the Unity 2020 fiasco on the other end, where they end up saying we need Crenshaw on the ticket to appeal to the right. And I'm not about to go back a neocon who wants to pull us into some more wars. So it feels like we've got these two movements that if they cooperated and maybe tried to pull some folks from like the Greens, the Peace and Freedom Party, from the Libertarian, we might be able to have like a coalition ticket and back a write-in campaign, even if it is a protest vote this cycle. There just needs to be that energy telling people to unify, and I don't see that coming from the leadership. That is what concerns me the most.
Listen to us, MPP. Like, listen to commentators. Like, we are very, like, we have our eyes on the ground, and we have like a good perspective on like what is happening in different parts of the country and like what you can do to improve and so that you don't commit a lot of mistakes. Like, so Richard, can you tell us, like, for people who don't know, very briefly, like what happened with the Green Party this election or during these primaries?
It's basically the TLDR is Howie Hawkins was kind of preordained to be the nominee in a Hillary Clinton style fashion, and the primaries were almost a formality the way that they were. Well, they were a formality the way that they were held. There were states like North Carolina where literally only Howie Hawkins was on the ballot, and he actually almost lost to none of the above in North Carolina. In Massachusetts, they kept David Raldy off the ballot when that's his home state for pretty undemocratic reasons. Dario Hunter won with none of the above taking second. And there's been Wikipedia wars editing the page to say whether none of the above or Dario won. Like, it gets to that level of petty with this party. And it's not like they're winning seats. They're getting like maybe $170,000 in donations and loans to run their campaigns, and that goes to pay staff. And then they don't win the election, and they say better luck next time. That's the kind of shit we need to be aware of. Maybe they don't take corporate PAC money, but they take fundraising money and squander it, which I think should be equally reprehensible.
Yeah.
Does anybody else want to make any comments here before we move on? Like what Richard said.
I want to throw one more out there. This concept, I've heard this thing about bringing in Dan Crenshaw.
Unity 2020.
Look, I just got through saying we should include more voices from the right, but that's not what I had in mind.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right?
If you're going to bring someone in, Ron Paul, Rand Paul, maybe Justin Amash even. Get some folks that might actually have some reason, but Ron Paul would be a good one, right? We might not agree on some economic stuff, perhaps, but the guy's got the right message, and he's been preaching the anti-war message for a long time. He's actually got some common sense. It's something that's going to make sense. And he actually did pretty well in Republican primaries even, right? What did he come in third, I think, behind Mitt Romney in 2012, perhaps? So, second. Yeah, I remember he was right up there at the end, but I couldn't remember just how far he got. But, yeah, I mean, Ron Paul even. Now, naturally, I don't think we're going to get Ron Paul to make a run for any kind of office at this stage in the game. But But it's like that. Don't go for Dan Crenshaw, who's got a vendetta against Arabs. Okay, you're self-defeating. That's going from one bad choice to another one here. So no, get some people who make some sense and can actually pull from Democrats and Republicans and actually build a united People's Party.
Yeah, just very briefly, I just want to ask, what did MPP do right? Like we've been like bashing them here for a little bit, but what did they do right? And like can they like build up on like the stuff that they did do right?
Well, I mean, if the goal is just to raise awareness, a third party's function ultimately is. A third party's function, in my opinion, is to sort of educate the public, to raise awareness about these issues. I think that in that sense, MPP could have been successful. I didn't look to see how many people tuned in or anything like that, but you're trying to get other people to break out of the matrix. I mean, that ultimately to me is how you measure its success. It's not about getting somebody on the ballot this year or even on the debate stage. It's just about trying to educate the public.
Yeah.
Does anyone else want to comment on what they did right? I thought it was good how they managed to get a lot of big voices on. But now it's up to them to organize properly.
Yeah, I thought that was nice, but I was also disappointed that they were okay with platforming people who just want us to vote Dem and push them left. That's the wrong message if you actually wanted to form a new party. That's the message that you get if you wanted to reform the Democratic Party, which is why the red light goes off in my head saying, what is this? Is this a real opposition movement? I don't know. It doesn't really feel like it. It feels like it's just meant to kind of sate my urge to be angry right now. Like I get to tweet to some people who retweet me saying, yeah, the system's messed up. But where's the solidarity? Where were the funds set up to fund the striking workers who aren't going to get paid? I didn't really see any of those. I saw I was supposed to be complimenting Unity here, which I just realized. But I feel like this is important to point out. Their one account that was used to promote the idea of like a general strike 2020, and the website it was linked to had a guide to how to start a strike in your workplace and an incomplete list of mutual aid organizations. And then their tweet about it on September 1st told people to go vote down ballot. That ain't part of a general strike.
Yeah.
That we can engage in electoral politics and protest, but we need to realize those are separate, and we do them alongside one another. The message of the general strike isn't we're going to back the down ballot candidates. The message of a general strike should be we need to throw a wrench in the system for a bit. Yeah. Priorities, folks. So like the energy is there, and that's probably the best that I can give them is they've got energy. They should just channel it in better ways.
For sure, yeah.
I would throw, as far as one compliment goes, and this might be a little anticlimactic for some folks, but to me, at least they've picked a better name than the Green Party. Okay? Yeah. You've actually got a party name that might catch some people's attention, for example, whereas the Green Party, you really alienated who you're going to reach out to, especially when you get deeper and deeper into the South. Yeah, you kind of start losing a little bit of your excitement and your flavor. So they picked out a better name, but they need a far better marketing strategy than they've got right now.
Yeah, they did pick a good name, I think. Movement for a People's Party. We know it's like for the people. It's not, right. It's like you said, it's not going to turn people off just by saying like green. There's a lot of people, unfortunately, there's people that don't really care too much about environmental policy.